All right. Well, welcome. It's 4 p.m., so let's go ahead and get this started. I'd like to welcome you to our BrainPOP Educators webinar series. My name is Robert Miller. I'm the lead learner for BrainPOP. I do professional development at conferences, schools, and districts. I'm with Andrew Gardner. I'm currently I work remotely from Daytona Beach, Florida. And I'll let Andrew kind of do a little introduction of himself right now. He can tell you a little bit about his role at BrainPOP Educators.
Hey folks, this is Andrew from BrainPOP. I oversee all professional learning here, and we're super excited to have you here today to learn more about our assignment features and some of the latest and greatest teacher controls in BrainPOP. A little about me: I'm a former teacher, first and second grade, and for 6 years, and then tech integrator for third to fifth graders for 5 years, and joined BrainPOP about 5 or 6 years ago. So that's enough about me. Enough about Robert. Let's get the show on.
Great. And Andrew, too. We definitely want to make sure everyone knows that this is kind of a more advanced webinar. We're not really going to be talking about how to work or create individual tools or features of BrainPOP. But rest assured, there's lots of resources on BrainPOP Educators that we can point out to you. Later on how to do some of these exciting things that we're going to be sharing today. What I really like about today's is we're going to be talking about creating assignments, how you can customize direction and a learning path for your students, not just with the content, but also some of the interactive features. Progressing right along here with instructions and introductions. What I'm excited about with today's webinar is it's not just going to be about the features and the tools or the content, but we're going to show you how you can actively create, like I said, those pathways for your students. And we're going to do a little different today. We're going to actually kind of take the role of a teacher and a student. So a day in the school life with BrainPOP. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create, we're going to pick a subject and a topic and create an assignment with the assignment builder of all the different ways that you can engage or assess your students. And then I'm going to turn it over to Andrew. He's going to play the role of the student, and we'll let him kind of interact with his assignment on a student My BrainPOP dashboard. He'll submit his assignments to me, the teacher, and we'll kind of look at different ways that you can review, comment, or give feedback to those students. We'll kind of wrap up at the end with showing you where all kinds of resources are available for you on the how-tos for some of the features and topics and tools that we share today. If you have questions, pipe those into the chat window and we'll answer those. But we'll also hang around at the end. If there's anything that comes up, we can answer some maybe some specifics of things that may have popped up that we didn't get to through our webinar today. So great. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do today. In a moment, I'm going to go live with my screen onto BrainPOP. What we're going to do today, like I said, I taught fifth grade space. The planets, the solar system was something that I taught. So let's just say that that's something I want to go ahead and get some assignments built for my students with BrainPOP's resources on maybe Mars. So just as a teacher would do, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and maybe have a starter map that I'm going to create for on Make a Map. Something you may not know that you could do, but yes, you can actually give your students a stepping stone on the direction on that you'd like for them to make their map. We'll also create a custom quiz that I'm going to cherry pick questions that I want my students to answer, and then we'll also throw in some other things as we build in that assignment there. So I'm going to go ahead and move into my screen. So if you just give me a moment to jump into my browser here, and you should be able to see my screen here. Here I am on BrainPOP. This is the home page. So you'll notice up here that I am logged in as a teacher. This is my training account. It's a teacher account. Andrew is going to be logged in as a student in a little bit. So they look similar, but there are some differences in there. I'm going to just go right into, let's just go to the topic page of Mars. We'll search there. Not only topics, but you also have games that come up. We're going to jump right into Mars here. So here is the topic page of Mars. Many teachers go right in there and play the movie and go right to the quiz, movie and quiz. I think you're going to see that there's a lot more that you can do. And what's nice about assignments and the assignment builder is that you can cherry pick the ones that you want your students to do, give them prompts, give them specifics on how you want them to respond or create with their tools. So you're going to see not only do you have content, but there's all these tools and features that are over here that they can interact with and they can also create with. So normally teachers go in and start a quiz. They use the BrainPOP quizzes there, but hopefully you know that you also have this tool up here called the Quiz Mixer. So I'm going to go into there. When you're signed in as a teacher, you'll see that quiz mixer up there, and you can actually make your own quizzes. I'm curious if anybody's actually done that. If you want to tell us in the chat window there, I'm going to create a new quiz here. We'll go ahead and call this, well, let's just call it Mars Far. Kind of a little pun there. And we'll build this quiz about Mars. Now, what that does is this is actually going to pull all the quiz questions on BrainPOP from BrainPOP and other teachers that may deal with Mars. So you have two tabs here. You can write your own questions. I'm actually just going to build it from other teachers or BrainPOP's questions here. So you'll see I'm going to jump in here to Mars. This is the BrainPOP quiz. There's 10 questions here. And let's see, question number 1, what is the following images correctly represents the size of Earth? Well, that's great. Look, they even have graphics that are in there. So this is a great question. We talked about size and ratio earlier, so I'm going to include that question there. Moby gives me a little affirmation there that I have that. Let's also see question 3. Oh, this is a great one. We've been talking about tilt and rotation and revolution. So I'm going to include this question that looks great. So let's go ahead and add question 3. And then question 10, we talked about the iron oxide on Mars. We've got a nice image here. I didn't even have to write this question myself. I could have if I want, but it's already there. I'm going to add that one in there as well. So from the BrainPOP Mars quiz, I took 3 questions there. And you'll see over on the right-hand side here, we have all the authors of these quizzes that were made. Let's go into this one. This is actually a teacher that submitted their questions. You have the option when you're publishing, you can share your quiz with all the other BrainPOP teachers. So these are her questions here. I want to include that there. So that's great. So you can see up here at the top, this is my quiz that I just made in 2 minutes. So I have a 5-question quiz that I made. And tell you what, this question number 5, I'm actually going to change this. You can edit your questions. Why is it important to study Mars? How do we do this? Should we study Mars? Whoops, should we study Mars? Why or why not? Great. So now I have an open-ended question here. I'm going to actually give them, we'll set this one for 2 points. I'll save those changes. Great. So here's my quiz. I'm going to finalize this. We'll just go ahead and we'll keep it to ourselves here. No thanks. And I can create a quiz code here. So we'll just say Miller Mars 17. This is a quiz code that I can give to my students, but we're actually going to be assigning this one in a moment. So this sets that up, but we can also customize and assign it out there for my students. So we have that quiz all set, ready to go. We're successfully published that, but we can also assign it to the class. I'm going to hold off on that just a minute. So just remember that. So this is our custom quiz. And I'm going to go into the Make a Map on Mars. Let's go back to Mars. And I'm going to kind of get a starter map for my students. So let's go back here to Mars, because he doesn't want to go back to Mars. And we'll go on to Make a Map. And when I go to Make a Map, I kind of have an idea of what I want my students to do. So I'm going to create a new map here. Let's just call it Mars Far for now, since I have some other maps made. And I'm going to go up here and let's go even further. And I'm going to give my students a purpose or a focus question that I want them to do. So how about we say, what are obstacles to colonizing Mars? Great. So if you're familiar, and like I said, we're not going to go into the ins and outs of Make a Map, but if you can play the movie here, you get the gist of the movie, you have a direction of what you want your students to do. You can take this blank space and actually create a starter map for your students. So let's just say I'm going to take a blank note here, and I'm going to let my students fill that in, but I'm going to kind of give them a hint, and I'm going to color it red. But maybe I can put a couple of blank notes here. Maybe I want my students to talk about these the issues with the surface features. Surface features. And how about we have a node where I'm going to have them talk about the atmosphere of Mars. And then maybe have one about the whole issue about water, because we know there's ice on there, but how are we going to get that water? And this will be fun. Why don't we give them also kind of one that they can edit themselves? We'll just call this wild card. Great. So this is kind of a starter map that I have for my students. It's all set. It auto saves. You can click save if you want, but now we're all set with that. So what I can now do is, let's go back to Mars, the topic page. Let's just, we can go up here to assignments. Let's go ahead and start building. I kind of made a couple of things that I want my students to do. We'll go in here and I'm going to create an assignment. So I already have some assignments out there now on soil, on a BrainPOP Junior. Let's make a new assignment. And we're going to do this off of Mars. And we'll select Mars. So everything that we had on this, let me toggle back to this page here. On this topic page here, anything a student can do on Mars, on the topic of Mars, you can also now assign. So here's everything that we have that's available to us. We can have them watch the movie, watch that together. You can use the BrainPOP quiz, but I'm actually going to throw in my mixed quiz that I just made. So here you can see, here's the quiz that I just made. We're going to add that to the assignment. Okay, now let's go, and we did the make a map. I can have my students just start with a blank map if I wanted, but here is my saved map that I just made. We're going to assign that to them. Great. So we have that, and let's also maybe have them do the challenge. I'm going to assign that, and I'm going to give that as a graded one. Let me jump back just to kind of give you an idea of what the challenge is. A challenge is just a quick assessment that they can go in. Andrew's going to demonstrate this in a moment, but you'll see down here I have these four types of assessments that are in the challenge: a Venn diagram, fill in the sentence, multiple response, and matching. This is a great way to get further feedback on your students on how well they know that. So we've assigned the challenge. Let's go down and maybe, why don't we even throw in some BrainPOP Junior? So I have some students that can work with BrainPOP Junior. I'm going to click down here, add a junior topic. Let's do Mars, because there is a movie on Mars. So we've added that. So now not only do I have all of the BrainPOP material on Mars, but down here below I also have the junior material. So I'm going to have, let's have our students do the talk about it. I know that's a Venn diagram. So we have that. And let's go back up here to the BrainPOP material. We're going to load Andrew up with quite a bit of work to do today. Let's have him also do the Sortify game. That's a game maybe on the space exploration. I'm also going to have a primary source. So we have that. So wow, this is a loaded assignment. If you'll take a look here, I just clicked next. So now you can see that my students, I have everything listed in here in the order that I chose it. If you want, you can actually rearrange these. Your students don't have to do them in order, but you can kind of give them a guide on what you want them to do. Further instructions, let's say just get to it. and go down here and we'll click next and we'll select a class. I've got my demo student in there. You can set an assignment due date. You can schedule for later. This is great if you know that you're going to be absent, maybe for a substitute date. And then we just click assign. It's as easy as that. So now this assignment is being pushed out to all of my students in that demo class. When they log in on their BrainPOP assignment, as you'll see in a moment, they will then be prompted to do an assignment. So that is what it looks like on the teacher side. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andrew as our student. He's going to be logging in as Bobby and creating his assignments. And you'll see where he is going to show the dashboard, and then we'll kind of let him go through the assignments, and then we'll go back to the teacher side and see what it looks like there. So Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and give you control there. The screen.
Terrific. Can everyone hear me okay?
I can hear you.
You can, terrific. All right, so I'm assuming if Robert can, then everyone else can as well. I'm going to share my screen now, and you'll get a sense of what it looks like from a student perspective once a assignment has been directed towards me. So just give me 1 sec. I'm going to go and share.
And while he's doing that, again, if you have any questions, just pipe those in there, and I'll take over answering the chat window questions.
Can you see okay, Robert?
I can see, yes.
Okay, so one important thing to reiterate too is that when Robert created that assignment, he assigned it to the whole class, so everyone got the same things. There's also a little drop down that said assign to specific students. So if he wanted to assign this 7-step assignment to me, which is fairly ambitious, but do a slightly lighter assignment for another student that may have had some different requirements, he can do that. So you can mix and match. You don't have to assign everyone the same thing because, of course, we want to make this useful for differentiating. So now you can see on my screen, I am logged in as Bobby Miller, the student, and that assignment has been pushed to me. It says, beep, Andrew, you have an assignment to do, or beep, Bobby. So right here it says My BrainPOP, and there's a number 1. I'm going to click on that to go look at my assignments. And it says, all right, your teacher assigned the Mars assignment assignments. So he named it Mars assignment, and that's why it says it twice. If it was like Mars attacks assignment, it would be Mars attacks assignment. If I wanted, I could look in my timeline to see everything I've already done, look in my assignments here, or look at it in the notifications. Once I click on the notifications, or once I click into assignment, it's going to show me, hey, Andrew, here are the 6 or 7 steps that you need to do to complete your assignment. So the first thing to do is take the Mars FAR mixed quiz. I'm going to click on it. It opens in another tab so that I can still have my assignments open in here. I'm going to follow my teacher's directions and do it in order. But that's not necessary. Students can take them out of order. They don't like unlock as you go from one to the other. So, all right, I got to see my sizes here. I'm just randomly clicking, which is one of the drawbacks of a multiple choice quiz. They can kind of be cruised through without really thinking. But then, of course, here's the open-ended question. Should we study Mars? Why or why not? Yes, the Earth is getting too crowded and we may need to migrate soon. So that's my rationalization. I click next. Now this is auto-submitted to the teacher. No score yet. Your teacher will score your quiz. So there's no score because my teacher, Robert Miller, is going to look at the open-ended question, but I can still see for the multiple choice or selected response, I got 1 correct and 3 wrong. I could click view my results and see as I click through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That didn't go click right when I went to 1, but there we go. So now I can go back to my score to see the final score, or I can go back to assignments, or of course I could click back on the other tab. I'll show you what it looks like here to go back to my assignments. And here it's not open anymore, but I can see, all right, I took the Mars fixed quiz. Next, I'm going to complete the what are obstacles to colonizing Mars map. And when I click on this, boom, it opens up. And look, that's the map that Robert created about 7 minutes ago and assigned to me. And I can begin watching the movie here and bringing in images or keywords to answer some of the questions. So, um, fast forward a little bit.
And it's terrestrial, which...
All right, so here's an element about the terrestrial. So the surface features is that it's terrestrial. So I'm going to say a little bit about it. And I'm going to say this might be hard to dig foundations into if we want to create homes, or houses, I should say. So that's maybe an obstacle to colonizing Mars. That could be totally wrong. It may be very easy. And that's for Robert as my teacher to evaluate when he gets this submitted to him. I can click pictures to look at the atmosphere. Oh, look, there's a lot of carbon dioxide up there. So that's telling me maybe inhabitable. For water, maybe I bring in some element here, maybe about riverbeds and how there was water. And, when I click the play button, this is one of the beauties of the Make a Map tool. When I click the play button in riverbeds, it's going to go to the moment of the movie where that word is used in context. So let's see how that looks.
There are riverbeds and other landforms that seemed like they were carved by flowing water. If that's true, there's a good chance that Mars once supported life.
Aha! So I can say, maybe once there was water running there. All right, so I can continue working on this map. I can save it. If I was completed with it, I could submit it to my teacher. I'm going to do that now. If I was to submit this to my teacher saw it and I was the teacher, I would probably say, hey, student, please continue working. This is not good work. However, we got 45 minutes here. We're trying to demo how to use it. So, all right, I'm going to submit my map. Even though it's submitted now, I could always go back and work on it again and resubmit it to the teacher, and it would come in as a second instance, meaning they would see this original one that I just submitted, and they would also see the new one. All right, so after submitting it, it brings me back to the topic page. I'm going to click back onto my assignments here. So now I'm going to take the Mars challenge. Let's click the Mars challenge, and it opens right to the challenge. It's going to start. Here we go. So, group and label according to the planets they describe. All right. Let's see. Third planet from the sun is the Earth. Tilted axis of rotation is both. Polar ice caps is both. Let's see. Sub-zero average surface temperature is Mars, and atmosphere of carbon dioxide. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but we're going to keep going. Oh, look, here are closed sentences or fill in the gaps. Flaws in the lenses of blank led some astronomers to mistakenly observe blank on the surface of Mars. Let's see. Flaws in lenses of telescopes, let's see, that makes sense, led to astronomers to mistakenly observe iron oxide. Let's see. The reddish tint of the... No, that's wrong, because I think iron oxide needs to go down there. I'm going a little default here. The remote-controlled rover, passing dust. All right, we're going to move canals here. There we go. All right, so you can see a little bit of critical thinking there by default going through, even though I may not have known the answer correctly. Which observations support the theory that Mars might have supported life in the past? I'm just going to do this randomly. 1, 2, 3. So this is a multiple response question, and match the images with their description. So I don't have to be the first one to explain that in terms of helping prep kids for standardized tests, though it's not something we love doing, the challenge is a great way to do it, because this is much more similar to a lot of the computerized tests that were deployed by Smarter Balanced and Park. Well, I got 12 out of 19 correct. So even though I kind of cruised through that, I got 12 out of 19. I can view my results if I want, like this. I can go back to my score. Let's go back to the assignment, because now I've done 3 of the 4 things. I'm going to complete the talk about it. Oh, look, this opens up Junior. This does not open up BrainPOP. And I'm just going to do blah, 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 submit to teacher. All right, submitted to him. Let's do the Mars primary source. Ooh, primary sources. Not all BrainPOP topics have a primary source, but a couple hundred of them do. And you say, whoa, Andrew, this doesn't look like a primary source. This looks like a series of questions. And wow, you're right. It is a series of questions. But the questions are in relation to what will appear when I click the view button. So I'm going to read these questions first to help guide my viewing. That's why we've done it this way. The questions guide your viewing, and then you click and you see it. So which of the two photographs was taken on Mars gives reason to support your answer. Many of the rocks in both photographs measure about a centimeter across. How does their size support the conclusion that water, not wind, was responsible for their rounded shapes? All right, I'm going to do those two answers, and let's click into view. Okay. So I think the left is probably Mars and the right is probably Earth, because we call Mars the red planet. And I can see some of them are rounded, so that might suggest to me that water was part of the atmosphere and part of the climate that helped smooth the rocks in both. So, all right, which of the two photographs are taken on Mars? Left is on Mars because it's red. I know that's not a complete sentence. Many of the rocks in both photographs measure about a centimeter. How does their size support the conclusion that water, not whiz? So I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. Need to research more. Okay, I'm going to save it, and it will be submitted. Terrific. And last, we're going to play the Sortify space exploration game. Click this, opens up a tab, and ooh, this is a game called Sortify. This game collects data about how I classify or, quote, sort information. So this is how it works. This is a game where there's a lot of information in form of tiles, and my job is to classify it into groups. So I'm going to click the plus button here, and I'm going to choose astronauts for there. I'll choose visited by a lander here. And it was because I know that there was a lander that went to Mars. There's a lander that's gone to the moon. I don't think anything's gone to the sun or to Pluto or to Venus. Who are the astronauts? I could say Neil Armstrong was an astronaut and Sally Ride, and I can be wrong and say that Galileo was one as well. So look what happens when I click on astronauts and I click submit. It's going to say, all right, Andrew, you did right. Neil and Sally were right. Galileo, not so much. When I click continue, it kicks Galileo back out, but ooh, my astronauts category is gone. When I click visited by a lander and I submit this bucket, Mars and the moon is right. Oh, Mercury, I was wrong. All right, well, I learned that. I thought it might have been. Okay. But now that category's gone. All right, now I got to pick a new one. Russian-Soviet space program. That looks like a Russian name, even though I don't know the person. Sputnik. Oh, I remember hearing about that when Mr. Miller was telling me about it last week and showing that funny video. International Space Station. That's kind of, I don't know if that's from the era of the Russian-Soviet space program, but it may have been a part of it. So I can play and submit that. I could bring in different categories here. And the point is that a lot of the content, a lot of the tiles could fit into multiple categories. So I can challenge myself with the more challenging ones like the 5-point ones, or I could do simpler ones like dwarf planets, which is simple. So maybe Pluto would go in there, and Ceres and Uranus. Let's see, is that right? Oh, I got 2 right and 1 wrong. All right. So again, I'm getting feedback in the moment. I could play this again and again and again, but I'm just going to submit these things. Oh, I got those all right. Good for me. And I'm just going to say I'm done now, even though the goal of the game is to clear the data. Yes, I'm ready to end the game. And this should now be submitted to my teacher. You successfully, so I didn't even say I wanted to submit it, but it successfully happened. All right. So now there I am. I'm a student, and I've completed all 6 steps of my assignment. I can now mark it as done. People have said, "Oh, will it take away the thing after you've done it?" And the answer is no. The 6 steps will still appear there. And they're not numbered, and they may be done out of order, but at least they're getting to the teacher's, to the student's feed, and the student is now prompted to do stuff. And you can use the instructions to be clear about what students should do. I'm going to mark as done because I've now done it. And I can look at my past assignments and see it again, but I completed it, so that's why I clicked mark as done. So now let's see what it looks like for Mr. Miller, who is my teacher, who has received everything that I've done. I'm going to stop sharing and we'll hand it back to you, Robert.
Great, perfect. Andrew, I think you deserve some recess.
Oh, I don't know.
Yes. So yes, that was a very loaded assignment that I built on the assignment builder. As Andrew pointed out, yes, you can just pick a couple things. You can specify individual students that you may want to assign that to. There's lots of flexibility with the assignment builder. So something you'll definitely want to check out there. All right, so let's go back. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so now we are back to my home page. You'll see again, this is my teacher account here. So let's just say the next day or that evening or after school, I want to go in and check my students' progress. I would go up here to my classes. And you will see everything that your students have done. Let's go to the right class. So here I have everything that Bobby Miller has done, aka Andrew. You can also go to assignments. And you can also check, the progress on here. So here is the instructions that I gave, and everything was on there. But you'll see, I can go through here and check the, I can check the, their progress that they have on there. So let's go in and,
Just click the view progress button.
Yeah. Right here. There we go.
There you go.
And you'll see Bobby Miller, here's my class, but Bobby Miller has gone in here and completed the assignment. Anything that I need to give feedback has that open speech bubble there. So unevaluated, I can go in here. Here is his map that he submitted to me. I can go in here and just check to see what he's got. This might be hard to dig. Foundations, create houses. You are very ambitious. And I can submit to student. So now Bobby Miller / Andrew has some comments that are there. This is also a nice way too, like when all of your students are turning them in, this will kind of like a speed grader for you to go in and just quickly get to all of them. So that was his map. So you'll see that now that shows me that I've given him feedback there. The Mars Talk About It on a BrainPOP Junior. Again, I can get feedback, check your spelling. And you see, you have quite a few lines that you can go in and give a feedback. And moving right along, we have his primary source. He's got some ideas there. Looking good so far. To your students as well. So those are the things that just kind of going in and, oh, did I not do? Submit. All right, I think I clicked back too fast. No. And then to sortify, we have things that he chose. I can go in here and see specifically what he missed, what he didn't miss. He was playing a game, yet I'm still going to be getting feedback on that. So I can give comments here as well. Let's get a smiley face.
It's also worth noting that if the whole class was to play Sortify, you would get feedback about how the students did in each of the different categories. So like I'd probably get, positive feedback for the Russian Space Center one because I got everything right, but I get slightly less positive feedback for some of the other categories. And I could see that in relation to the other students in the class as well. Since only one student has taken it right now, you're just seeing that individual students' classifications. But
right.
You do get a class summary.
Right, so this nice little matrix here, all of your students would appear on here. You would go in and give feedback. They can resubmit to you, some of these features and tools from the tools, and you would actually have their first and their any additional submissions that they have. So this is a great way also to show growth. So assignments, we encourage you to actually get in there and start assigning. Not only can students submit, but you can also assign. So this is a great way for accountability, keeping up with what students are doing, what they're not doing. You have students who are absent, or out sick for duration. You can customize assignments for them. All kinds of different ways that you can use the assignment tool or assignment builder. All right, anything else, Andrew, that you can think of?
No, I'm just curious what some people may be thinking in terms of using this next, and what kind of inspired them. Like, might you create different pathways for different students, or was there a feature that you observed today that you hadn't been aware of prior that you're excited about? And or if there's any sort of additional questions about the assignment maker specifically, this is a good time to answer them.
Right. So you can pipe those into the chat window there. Some of you might be thinking, wow, the assignment builder, but I haven't seen some of these, that option on my page. I just want to remind you that this only is with the My BrainPOP. So My BrainPOP is another level to already your classroom, your school subscription. So I'm going to jump into BrainPOP Educators and show you where these where the instructionals are, how to set up. So if you're still logging in with the generic school code and password, both teachers and students, you need to have your school migrated over to the My BrainPOP, where you have all of these features included. So let me go back over here to my browser. And the way to tell this is when you log in to BrainPOP or BrainPOP Junior, when you're logged in, you want to be using an individual account. If you're logged in as a teacher, you're the only one with that account, and you would see these features like Quiz Mixer, making the assignments, and also going through your classes. But let's just say you're not there yet. Some of the tools that we showed you, like primary sources, maybe you weren't familiar with, or the challenges. All your how-tos are going to be right here on BrainPOP Educators. You can get to it by with the Mobi dropdown, or down at the bottom of both BrainPOP and BrainPOP Junior, you'll see BrainPOP Educators link. So when you click there, that opens up a new tab, and that gets you right here. This is a great menu to go to with the tool and feature support. And this will show you how to set up individual accounts. If you need some advice on how to integrate challenges, everything is right here. So the tool and feature tab, this is where you want to go. You can also, if you're not onto the My BrainPOP yet, you can also go to Getting Started. This will kind of lead you through there as well. So again, like we said, we weren't going to have the how-tos of all the basics of the tools and features, but here's where you can find information. And I also want to point out too, under training with webinars, where you signed up today, for today, there's also a link down here to webinar archives. And that is the one where you can find out how you can use all the individual tools and features, for webinars from the past. Great.
I'm going to quickly answer Anne's question. She's asked if this is Google friendly. And yes, if you have G Suite in your school, you can sign on to BrainPOP through G Suite. And if you have Google Classroom set up and the classes are rostered, then the BrainPOP classes will mirror the classes that you set up in Google Classroom. So that's a really, really useful thing. And all the information about how to set that up is on that setup individual account page on BrainPOP Educators. I'll go find the link right now.
Perfect. Okay, we're gonna start. We just have about 3 or 4 minutes left. If you have other questions, again, you can put them in the window, and we'll also hang around at the end. We also have our own certification program, the BrainPOP Certified Educators. If you're interested in that, you can also find that under training on BrainPOP Educators. We offer online courses. They're kind of full for the rest of the year, but when the winter spring semesters come around, go ahead and just sign up, and hopefully we can fit you in there. It's a great program where we give you opportunity to dive further within the tools and features of BrainPOP. If you're interested, we also offer BrainPOP coming to your school or district. You can find information for that under BrainPOP educators as well, under professional development. There's a field there where you can sign up for further information on that. So we want to thank you for attending today. That was fun, playing the teacher and student role, kind of bouncing that back and forth. Hopefully you have some insight or see potential for this within your instruction for your classroom. It brings much more accountability. It also brings in the ability to not just have BrainPOP here and now, but you can assign things to be done later. So that's a beautiful thing as well. So again, my name is Robert Miller and Andrew Gardner. We appreciate you attending today. We will hang out for a little bit longer if you wish to ask any other questions and other resources that you may have. But if not, thank you very much for attending, and we hope to see you at future webinars. Thank you.